Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for the City of Hendersonville, Tennessee. This is November 28th. It's pretty close to 7 p.m. We're going to begin our meeting as we typically do, and that's with a prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we have we are honored that we have Dr. Bruce Chesser here. He's the senior pastor at First Baptist Church of Hendersonville, and we appreciate him, and we appreciate very much what your church does for the community. So let's go ahead and pray.
Thank you, Mayor. Heavenly Father, thank you for the day. Thank you for the season that we're all beginning to enjoy fully. Thank you for the community we live in. We pray for those who serve this community, our firefighters, our police officers, our first responders of every kind, for those elected officials that serve this community. Thank you, Lord, for a good place to live. Thank you for good neighbors and good schools, and just for the community that we enjoy every day. I pray for the business that will be taken care of here tonight, and we give you thanks for all of your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.
Again, that was Dr. Bruce Chesser, from his senior pastor of First Baptist Church of Hendersonville. We appreciate it very much. So, please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to entertain a motion that we accept the agenda that was provided to you in your packet. We have a motion from Alderman Peterson and a second from Alderman Goodwin. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe number 3 on our agenda has been withdrawn, if I'm right about that.
That's correct.
And I'd like to recognize our friends from Grace Place who's here. I know they're here somewhere. And raise your hand. You here? Yeah, they are. I know they're concerned about our meetings tonight, and I'm sure they want to talk. So I move to have this number 5 move up to number 1.
Okay.
So they can get out early. Thank you.
We're going to lose 80% of our audience when we do that. But I need to recognize that we have a motion to take item number 5 and make that number 1. And we have a second from Alderman Sassy. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Couple things. One thing I mentioned to you by email was that I do need to withdraw item number 3, and I also would like to add a public hearing, which had been advertised. It was just a mistake that it wasn't on the agenda, so we need to put it on the agenda. And also, I would like to add a mayor's report, mostly about the Resource Authority of Sumner County. So I'm going to make that motion that so I'm going to withdraw item number 3, which doesn't require a vote, but I'm going to make that motion that we add a mayor report at the end of brief committee reports, and that we add a public hearing regarding resolution 2023-49, and I appreciate a second. We have a second from Alderman Goodwin. Alderman Waters, any discussion on that item? Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Any other discussion or proposed changes to our agenda? Okay, so at this point, we've made 3.5 changes. The half is that we withdrew item number 3. We've moved item number 5 up to the top of ordinance and resolutions. We've added a mayor report at the end of brief committee reports, and we added a public hearing on resolution 2023-49. All those in favor of the agenda as it's been amended, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you all for that. So the next item on our agenda is presentations followed by public hearing. We don't have any presentations, so we're going to go to a public hearing. And this is on resolution 2023-49, which concerns Grace Place. We have a couple people that are signed up for that. And some time ago, help me, Lance, did we vote long-term to adopt the rules for citizen comments to public hearings, or do we just need to do that each time?
We did not formally adopt it.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Yeah. Alderman Robertson.
I make a motion that we allow the same amount of time for citizens' comments as for a public hearing as we do citizens' comments.
Okay. So that'd be 5 minutes. We have a motion from Alderman Robertson, a second from Alderman Garza. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. First person we have signed up for public hearing, we have 4, is Jody Corley of Inlet Drive.
Good evening, Mayor Clary and the Board of Aldermen. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Jody Corley, and I live at 143 Inlet Drive. And in February of 2024, it will be 50 years that my husband and I have lived at this same address in Hendersonville. We definitely like our home, neighbors, and the community of Hendersonville. And we've raised our family here in Hendersonville, and I've owned businesses here as well. To me, it's the best kept secret in the world. We love it here, and we have watched it grow and change over the years. We are always full of anticipation and excitement for what's new, and waiting and wanting it to always be beautiful and wonderful place for people to live and thrive. The heart of Hendersonville is amazing, and I have experienced that just being around people that have been so gracious to Grace Place. And I have seen it, that people be so kind over the years. Grace Place saw a need for a place for our women and children without a place to dwell and care for their children, and without means to make it happen. I am presently on the board of Grace Place and a founder and member of the Grace Place Women's Alliance, which now has over 150 members. And if you want to know more about the Grace Place Women's Alliance, I'm happy to tell you because the door is always open for new members. Grace Place has been meeting the needs with training and education for these women and children for 8 years in this community. And the success rate is 87%, which is unbelievable for a nonprofit. At this time, each family lives in one room. Now, I can't even imagine being in one room for a long while with my children sometimes, so, my younger ones, when they were young. But that's what they have for them at this point. And that is why Grace Place is trying to build a campus to better serve these families and many more families. Our waiting list appears to grow with so many trying to get into the program because it's such a good program with such a great success rate. Our director receives close to about 400 calls a month, which is unbelievable. It is a big job. This new facility will be able to house and train many more to be independent residents, which is our goal, and good citizens. We believe this change will work best for these women and their children and the community. This is why we are asking this evening for a change, a new plan, which I hope you will support. I will refer to our director, Dejanay Van Cleve, and she will be able to give you more details about that and answer more questions. I do support this new plan, and I hope you do as well. I want everyone to know Hendersonville takes care of their own. So that is why this is the best place to live. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Ms. Corley, thank you. Corey Sullen, Scarsdale Drive.
It's my first time doing this, so I'm not too much aware of the procedure, but my name's Corey Sullins. I live at 300 Scarsdale Drive South in Hendersonville. I'm a co-owner of Servpro of Sumner County, which also is located here in Hendersonville at 229 Innovation Way, just off of New Shackle, relatively new development, and also a future adjacent neighbor of Grace Place. And I'm here in support of them. Just want to go on record of saying that we fully support Grace Place, their mission, and the work that they do. And I've been informed about their amendment, the proposed amendment to their development plan, and we fully support it. And in fact, we offer our support to Grace Place throughout their development if they need anything else. That's all I got. Thank you.
Corey, thank you so much. Keith Head, Shoot Lane.
Good evening. My name's Keith Head. I live off of Shoot Lane. Me and my wife moved here in 2016. We're originally from Robertson County, but growing up here, I always wanted to live in Hendersonville. I've been on the board with Grace Place and also on the building committee. A lot of effort and time has been put into this plan. I just wanted to be here tonight to show my support and ask for your support on this. So thank you.
Keith, thank you. Ray Moore, Center Point Road.
My name is Ray Moore, live 2101 Center Point Road. What I've seen in the Planning Commission meeting here tonight too, I need to add my history in Hendersonville. My parents bought property here in 1962. Took 2 years to get the house built. We moved in at 1964. I'm still in that same house 60 years later, right at it. So, grew up here, went to school here. I wouldn't go anywhere else. I can walk through town and see people everywhere that I know, and I love it that way. My wife went with me to the funeral the other day. She said, couldn't believe it. Everywhere we turned around, I was talking and shaking hands with somebody. She said, I didn't know everybody knew you like that. Well, you be here long enough, it happens. She's only been here for 50 years, so. But anyway, I'm also a member, longtime member of, and trustee for the Lakeview Church of Christ next door to the property at Grace Place. I spoke at the Planning Commission meeting, and I've since learned some things have gone on that we didn't know, the changes that we didn't hear about at the time. Our concerns about the parking, and parking always seems to be at a premium, and reducing from the minimum standard of 2 per unit sound like a bad idea to me. Because our parking lot right next door would be the first place people would want to go and park and block our places that we really use the most. I was assured tonight, though, that some of that was addressed, that if this passes, that there would be a guaranteed in perpetuity change, that if anyone other than this type of thing goes in, and that parking would have to revert back to the minimums that's required now. If that's the case, then that pretty well it does away with my concerns of anything going on. You know, I have no problem with Grace Place. I think it's a great thing. I'm doing a lot of good work. We'll support them any way we can. Just hope these things. It concerns me a little bit because, not this board, because it's all changed, but I have been before the board in years past, and they guaranteed, well, this is one thing. They said, we will never have commercial development north of the bypass. We'll see how that worked out. They said, well, when they're developing the first parts of Glenbrook, or whatever they called it at the time, these grading projects, well, the contractor said, this is going to be too expensive with concrete culverts and grading to the different, smaller degrees of slope. It's going to cost us too much. Well, they gave in. So they put in kind of metal culverts and leave steep stuff the city has to mow and then go back and fix later. I guess I'm saying don't always trust what people say is going to happen down the road. This parking thing will be on the deed, and it will be where they cannot worm their way out of it. If somebody else besides either Grace Place or something like it goes in there, that they have to go back to minimum or whatever is required, I'm good with that. But I just want to let you know that I'm, if that ever happens, I hope they last there for a long time. I hope it's a very, very successful operation. We're glad to have them as neighbors. I'll be glad to help if they can contact me. Hopefully, we got it all down to the point where we don't have any complaints. But appreciate you if you would make sure that that is on the deed where it cannot be changed. So if somebody else comes in as a regular apartment to place, then they have to add parking or whatever they have to do to make it work. But anyway, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Appreciate that. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We provided those to you over the weekend, and this is from our November 14th, 2023 meeting. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Sassy. Any discussion on those? All those in favor of approving the minutes as they were provided to you, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next is citizen comments. We have 3 people signed up. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per person, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, that's me, not to the alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with differing views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. Those are the rules that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen passed several years ago, and they're at the top of the sheet where people signed in. Barbara Collier, Walton Ferry Road.
Hello, and thank you for your time this evening. I saw that I'm speaking in regards to the Westlake at Hendersonville rezoning. I am the owner of Kinderheart Academy and own the property of 303 Walton Ferry Road, previously known as Claremont Child Care Center. We are Kinderheart Academy Christian Bilingual Program, and we've purchased a property and now own and run a daycare center in that place. My concern in regards to the rezoning of the property is that it's a mixed-use property, and a lot of the current uses that are both permitted and conditional are being removed under the new zoning ordinance. That would greatly impact the value of my property moving forward. I don't have I'm not looking to sell 5, 10, it's not on my mind to sell or to move. We are operating as a child care center and would like to continue to do so, but I don't want the property to be affected with its value moving forward. If I choose to sell it, it would greatly marginalize the pool of buyers that we would even have interested in the property, given that it's a 5,500 square foot building, 12 parking spaces, 2 offices, 7 classrooms, 7 bathrooms. Some of the things that are being removed that are of concern to me are under the residential uses. 9 of the current 6 are which are conditional and 3 which are permanent. 7 are being removed. Only 1 permanent is remaining and 1 conditional use is remaining. It's no longer going to be under conditional use for assisted living facility, no longer allowed to be a bed and breakfast under conditional use. It's allowed to be a community residence, or no longer allowed to be a community residence with more than 8, but they are remaining the community residence small with 8 persons or less. Again, the size of the building is my concerns that moving forward, this wouldn't be a single dwelling home. It wouldn't be viable to be purchased as that. It also really narrows the scope when simply allowing it to continue to be used as a daycare. And really closing the doors for any potential buyers that may want to use it under the current permanent and conditional uses available. Also under the entertainment uses, it was a conditional use for a social club or lodge. That's also being removed under the new zoning proposal. So I am the current owner of the property, and I I'm just wanting to bring forth my concerns. I don't think that probably every property necessarily falls under this category, but our property specifically moving forward could really be devalued when it's looking to be resold, or just moving forward through the uses even allowed in the property. And that's all that I wanted to share at this time.
Over, thank you. Appreciate that. Darylyn Ferris, Alyssa Drive.
Mayor, Alderman. Last BOMA meeting, it was brought up, I think it's adopted resolution 2023-43. This has to do with the fire department answering calls out of the city limits. And there was an article in the paper this past week. I don't know if all of you saw it or not, but it was quite explicit what a problem it could be. After I got home that night, I got to thinking about it. And I like to research things, and I decided to check into some of this. So I talked to the county planning office last week and asked them, when these developers approached them, did they specify what type of fire protection they had, for instance? Turns out, what they tell these developers is that they do have 8 volunteer fire departments. However, the Hendersonville City Fire Department would also respond. So then I got to thinking, well, how are they dispatching these people? So I talked to someone with 911. And here's what I was told. I'm aware of the fact that these volunteer fire departments are not manned 24 hours a day. The buildings are empty. I've tried to call some before just to see if somebody'd answer the phone. What happens, according to 911, they contact the volunteer fire department near where this call is. I said, well, how do you get in touch with these people if they're not there? And they said, well, some of them have radios and some of them have telephones we call. But if we can't get in touch with them or they're unable to respond, then we dispatch the City of Hendersonville Fire Department to these calls. Now, you all know as well as I do, people that pay their city taxes in Hendersonville, that money is providing salaries, the equipment, the upkeep of the equipment. I'm even told one of these new fire engines, which we have some of the best equipment, is $1 million. Now, I cannot see calling for help. Say I have a breathing problem or a heart attack one night. I live near Luna Drive at that station. If they can't respond because they're over somewhere else, then they have to dispatch maybe Bonita Parkway. That could be a life and death type of situation. And my family would be real upset if I died because your fire engine or your Medcom unit is over in the county somewhere. Now, this is unbelievable. We've done this long. Of course, Hendersonville in 20 years has grown tremendously. So therefore, as you well know, maybe at one time this was okay. And you didn't have these huge developments that are outside of our county. I can give you another explanation about this. I have a friend, she's no longer living. About 3 or 4 years ago, she was having a seizure. She lived out of the county. She lived on Jones Lane. When her husband called 911, the station next to the Hendersonville Hospital was the one that responded. I didn't know a lot about where all the fire stations were back then. So anyway, they did respond. They had a fire engine, they had a red truck of some type, and also the Medcom unit that responded. 3 units. Okay. She did survive at that time. So about a week later, I went by that fire station, taking them some sweets and thanking them for what they did that day. Well, while I was there, all this time now, I'm thinking this is a county fire department. So while I was there talking to the young lady, she wasn't the one that answered the call that day, but she was there, and I
Ms.
talked to
Ferris,
her.
you've got 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Turned out, they got a call while I was there. They were going to Portland, Tennessee. So this is uncalled for. You all represent the city, the citizens of Hendersonville. Please, please, don't let this continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Larissa Moore, McBratney Drive.
Larissa Moore, 107 McBratney Drive. Coming to you again tonight because I have not heard from any of you regarding the letter that you wrote. It's even harder to be here tonight because the ladies that you affected are right behind me. You wrote me a letter accusing me of running a business. You have not bothered to ask me what it was I was doing. But these ladies behind you were affected. The ladies that they take care of were affected. Those ladies got to come to my home and get free items with tags still on them, toys for their kids. And you have not bothered to respond to me in a month. I was here October 24th, November 14th, and now tonight. I don't even live in that home anymore. I lost that home. It's gone. Now I live on McBratney Drive. I have been told I can't run anything. I can't do anything. I have people calling me daily. Do you have diapers? Do you have wipes? Do you have clothes? Do you have winter coats? I have to tell them no, because you don't let me. There was no business, and not one of you has bothered to ask me what it was I was even doing. I opened my home. People could come whenever they wanted, without me seeing them, without me judging them, without me having to know who they are, and take clothes and shoes or pictures for their homes. These ladies behind me take care of some of those women and those children that come to my home. So I'm coming to you tonight to ask you and beg you and plead to you. If you won't let me do it, then come to me so we can have a place for these ladies and the people in our community to come to so they don't have to pay. I love Goodwill. I love what they do. I encourage you not to donate there. Anyone who knows me knows I will not donate to them. They get it for free. They sell it for a cost. Habitat Restore. They get it for free. They sell it for a cost. I get it for free. I give it for free. Everyone on my page knows that I do this. There's 1,500 followers in Hendersonville and surrounding cities that follow every move that I make. I know you can't run a business from your home. I've known that for years. I've been doing this for 7 years. 7 years that I've lived here, I've been doing this. So I'm asking you tonight to please, please contact me, change this letter process, and help me take care of the community like they do.
Ms. Moore, thank you. We don't have any items on the consent agenda. We don't have any items. Alderman Waters?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I want to apologize to that lady. Number one, I don't hear well, so I really don't know what's going on. But if there's any way, Mr. Chairman, that we can form a committee of 3 people, let's check into this and see what it's about. I'll be honest, and I apologize to you, ma'am. I don't know what to do, but my heart goes out to you. So, Mr. Chairman,
Perhaps what we need to do is, since this isn't on the agenda, is wait till we get to the COO's report for the board, and maybe ask a question at that point. But right now, we can't address that right now.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We can later on. So we have nothing on the consent agenda, and now we're at ordinance and resolutions. And the first item that we have, since we changed the agenda around a little bit, is the reading of Resolution 2023-49. This is a resolution to amend the Grace Place at New Shackle Comprehensive Development Plan located at 126 New Shackle Island Road. Alderman Garza, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve Resolution 2023-49.
Alderman Robertson, is that a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. I do have a question, something that came up just a few minutes ago. I thought it was a reasonable question. Keith, saw you somewhere. Where do we have the restriction for parking specific to if this changes hands, that parking has to be expanded? Where is that stated?
Yeah, this will be on the approved plan development.
Okay.
And be incorporated within that, and we would enforce it through that.
Okay.
And what would happen is if there was an ownership change in the
Okay.
future, there'd have to be a change of use that would occur.
Okay.
And then at that time, that would be when we would be looking to sign off on that.
Okay.
And unless it was specifically, I think the wording, the way that we did it at the Planning Commission, it was worded in such a way that only an agency acting as Grace Place is acting in their current mission could operate that with that reduction in parking.
So it's not a deed restriction, but would you say it holds the same effect
Yeah.
as a deed restriction?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it'll restrain any future development. Let's just say it's not Grace Place in 10 years from now, and then somebody just wants to have it as rental property or sell it for individual homes or something. They would have to meet those parking requirements. And more than likely, they would either have to acquire additional property or probably most likely, they'd have to remove a couple of the units in order to make that work.
And you said we can do this because it's a planned development.
That's
Could
correct.
we do it if it were straight rezoning?
There could possibly be a parking reduction through straight rezoning,
Okay.
but that would probably be limited to land banking,
Okay.
where you're allowing the reduction
Okay.
of the parking, but they actually have the land for it.
Okay.
And that at such time, then it could be required to do. So, yeah, this is it's a little bit different than straight zoning.
Okay.
It's a little bit more negotiated.
Okay. Appreciate that. Let's go to Alderman Goodwin.
Could I be added as a sponsor to this?
Without objection, we're going to add Alderman Goodwin as a sponsor. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is thank you, Keith. I'm just going to make a little brief report here.
All right, thanks.
This is in Ward 6. The amendment is great. I'm for it 100%, but I just want to share some things with some people that wasn't on this board back when Alderman Robertson and myself met with the principals of this corporation. And I tell you, I have thought about it ever since that day, and that's been 2 or 3 years ago. You people are doing a wonderful job. And if you recall, Mr. Chairman, later on, before Bowman, we had a couple of 3 ladies come and speak that was involved in this program. It's great, and I'm all for it. And I asked my colleagues to support this, but I want to say one thing about one of my colleagues in Ward 2. He's the liaison for planning, and I want to give you the best thank you I can think of. When I read your memo at the bottom of your page, what you said, I'm not going to read it, but I just want the public to know that you're a number one guy, okay? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Any other discussion? Okay, Jason? Okay, hold on one second here. I lost my page. I apologize for that. Help me out. Thank you. This is Resolution 2023-49. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Appreciate that. Now we're on to item number 1 on the agenda, and that's second and final reading of Ordinance 2023-25. That was one page over. And that is an ordinance to amend our budget ordinance 2023-11 by appropriating general funds in the amount of $86,615 for the Arts Festival and approving the mayor to effectuate festival agreements. We have a motion from Alderman Collins and a second from Alderman Sassy. We're going to hold on for just a second.
That was moved to number 5.
That was, no, I think it stayed at number 1.
Did it?
Yeah, we just put number 5 ahead.
Okay.
We just put number 5 ahead.
This already has amended, right? Since they it was amended last time.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. So, y'all, we had an amendment on this item last time, so I just want to make you aware of that. Did we have just one, or did we have? Alderman Collins, do you remember if we had just one amendment? I think it was your amendment.
It was one amendment,
Okay.
and then I think what you're remembering is that Alderman Sassy suggested some changes to the wording
Okay.
of that amendment.
Okay.
So it was like an amendment to the amendment.
Okay, now I remember that, thank you, okay. So we have a motion, a second, I'm correct? Okay, any discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor of second and final reading of ordinance 2023-25, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously, thank you. Now we're on to item 2, which is first reading of ordinance 2023-24. This is an ordinance amending Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 7, Chapter 4, Section 402 regarding fireworks, and I so move. We have a second from Alderman Waters. Remember that we did have an amendment to this, and I'll explain that a little bit more in just a second. And then we took this back to the General Committee, and the General Committee endorsed it unanimously. Public Safety Committee, and the Public Safety Committee endorsed it unanimously with the amendment that we attached to it before. And again, this is first reading because we actually didn't, I withdrew it before we took a final vote on first reading. So this will still have to come back to us when we get to the middle of December. So so what we've changed, thank you. So the way this is worded right now is that we would allow fireworks from July 3rd, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., and July 4th from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then we would allow fireworks on essentially New Year's Eve till 1 in the morning, New Year's Day. So there's really 3 nights that we're allowing for this. And again, this is the non-licensed fireworks. We still have the opportunity for people to come and get licenses that I have to sign off on that have to go through our fire department. We still have that opportunity. Lately, we've only had one vendor that's offered it, that has sought that license, and that's been the folks at Freedom Fest. So any other discussion on this? Alderman Waters.
Mr. Chairman, are you referring to page 26 where the Public Safety Committee met and this is their recommendation?
25 and 26. They recommended it with the amendment that we put on it a month ago, I think it was.
Well, the only objection I have, and it's very minor, is I don't think one day is enough for the January the 1st.
Okay.
I really don't. And I'll amend it to 2 days if you don't mind. Thank you.
So what's the other day? You said 2 days.
2 days. It's 1 day now.
Okay.
I'd make amendment for another day.
Okay. Before or after?
After.
After. Okay.
Yeah.
So would we do the same times? Would it then be January 1st?
December 31st from 10 to January the 1st, 1 a.m.
Okay. And then on January 1st, we would go from also 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. that night?
The same time as December the 31st.
Okay. So we have a motion. Second. We have a second from Alderman Sassy. So now we're going to speak specific to that, to just that amendment. And so if you look on page 25, about halfway down, you see what the amendment explains. So we would add January 1st from 10 a.m. until January 2nd, 1 a.m., essentially adding 1 night. So any discussion on that? Alderman Peterson.
Yes. This isn't in discussion of that amendment.
Then you have to wait.
Okay, I will come back.
Okay, I'll try to remember you and Alderman Sassy that you both.
All right, thank you.
But he was first, I think. Okay. So Alderman Collins on the amendment.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I think that for January 1st until 1 a.m. makes sense because you're celebrating literally at midnight.
Electronic.
However, for the 2nd, to me, 1 a.m. does not make sense. I think 11 p.m. on the 1st, it still gives you that whole night. It is in the winter, so it's dark earlier. It's not in the summer when it doesn't get dark until later and you can't really effectively let off fireworks. I just think 1 a.m. on the 2nd, people are working. It's a little bit, it seems a little unnecessary to allow it into the morning like that, in my opinion. So unless Alderman Waters is agreeable to backing off of that just a little bit, I would not support the amendment.
You would be midnight instead of 1 o'clock?
Midnight or 11.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I can back off on that January the 1st. Instead of 1 a.m., let's say 11 p.m.
Okay. Alderman Waters has asked to change the wording on his amendment, and my second was from Alderman Sassy. Okay. So the 4th day would be January 1st from 5 to 11, is that correct? Oh, 10 to 11, 10 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. Okay. Jason, we'll do this electronically. Any other discussion? Was that Alderman Bergdorf?
Yes.
I'm going to ask our city attorney to give you that clarification.
Clarification as to the motion. They're asking to be added January 1st from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. So right now, with the amendment as it sits, it would be from December 31st, 10 a.m. until January 1st, 1 a.m. They're asking it to be added January 1st, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. So the New Year's Day.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. We're going to go electronically. Jason, you ready? So all in favor of the amendment, please press your green button. Those opposed, press the red one. Let's see, so Alderman Dixon is absent. That passes 7-5. Those voting against, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, Peterson, myself, Alderman Robertson. Those voting in favor, Alderman Martin, Sassy, Garza, Goodwin, Garten, Collins, and Waters. So that passes with a majority vote. So now we're back on the main motion. Alderman Sassy or Alderman Peterson, which one? Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. So let me get this straight. We are restricting the days now. Before we had allowed 3 or 4 days, was that correct?
I was about to turn to our city attorney and put him on the spot and ask that same question.
Okay, that's perfect.
Okay.
And also, and I think this is to maybe curtail complaints of people shooting fireworks. Is that the gist of this? The reason I'm going to try to get to my point. I was wondering if we could talk to the assistant police chief about this.
Absolutely.
Is that possible?
Absolutely. I found out recently we don't even have to suspend the rules to do that.
Okay, that's perfect.
We have been doing that erroneously for years.
Thank you so much for being here. And I wanted to ask, just for my own behalf, how difficult is it to enforce this ban of fireworks? Are you able, if there's a complaint, are you able to go out and find the person that's shooting the fireworks and issue a citation?
It depends. I mean, when they were totally banned in the city, it was extremely difficult because everybody in the city was shooting them off. So
Was that because of the burn ban?
no, just when the ordinance prohibited it completely.
Okay.
It was very difficult because you'd have 200 calls coming in, and for years I actually worked the midnight shift. So starting at 10:30 at night, we'd take over from the afternoon shift, and we were getting calls one right after the other. And many times, by the time the officer gets there, they've stopped shooting them and gone inside. And some people go out and shoot a few, quit, shoot a few, quit. So it's very difficult for us. Once the city opted to allow it on certain days, it decreased our number of complaint calls. And the ones we get probably now more so are they're shooting them after hours, or especially ones if they're shooting them at cars or shooting them at houses. And those are the ones we tried to focus on anyway, even when they were banned, because we had to kind of pick and choose which ones we could go after. And if somebody said they're shooting some fireworks in the cul-de-sac, that's probably not as bad if somebody said, well, they're shooting them at cars going down the road.
Right.
So that's the one we went after. And so with the city allowing them, the volume of calls has decreased because people are aware that it's legal now. So, and a lot of people quit by around midnight. So the ones shooting them later, they're a little easier to determine and find where they're at. We do the best we can, and a lot of times what our officers will do too, just due to sheer volume, is give a warning the first time. Hey, it's after hours, knock it off.
Okay.
If they go back, they're getting a citation. So, we try to handle it with just a warning first, because some people, you know, they say, well, I've only lived here 6 months, I didn't know when we had to quit. Well, now you know, here's the cutoff. And we still get calls outside of the allotted times, as far, you know, a day before when it's allowed, or the days and a lot of times it's more the days after than the days before. So we do the best we can, you know, with the size of the city, and a lot of times we'll have, you know, X number of officers working the road, and so in addition to the normal calls for service coming in, we're getting the fireworks calls. So we do the best we can, and we do issue citations, especially if they're shooting them at a house or a car or something like that.
I understand.
Alderman Peterson, can you hold on? Can y'all hear okay down there? Or do we need to stop the meeting for a minute?
I can hear.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Alderman Peterson, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief Jones. Appreciate that.
No problem, sir.
Okay, so any other discussion on the main motion? At this point, we've gone from 5 days, the way that the current ordinance is, to this ordinance is now going to restrict it to 4 days and restrict the hours a little bit more. So any other discussion? Any need for clarification? Okay, Jason, can you pull it up for us? Okay, so all those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2023-24 as amended, please press your green button. Those opposed, press the red one. Well, some of y'all started too early. Oh, we're good. Okay, so that passes 8-4. Opposed, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, Peterson, and Sassy. What? Okay. In favor, Alderman Martin, Garza, myself, Goodwin, Garten, Collins, Waters, and Robertson. That passes 8-4 with a majority vote. Thank you all. Let's move on to, let's see, we are on item 3, is that right?
Yeah, which was withdrawn, so it'd be number.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so item 3 that was mine that withdrew. Now we're on to item 4 on your agenda, which is Resolution 2023-46. This is a resolution accepting donated conveyance of real property to the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee, from the current owner located in the Mayfair development at 250 East Main Street. I so move. We have a second from Alderman Robertson. Alderman Collins.
I wanted to express my appreciation to staff for working with me and for being willing to get a new Phase 1 report. In the original Phase 1, well, I am certainly not an expert in this subject matter. It appeared to me that it referenced the property being bordered on the west by GE, where we know that originally it was a part of the GE property, so the premise seemed flawed, and it meant that the Phase 1 report didn't really offer me the reassurance that I was hoping that it would. So I'm very happy that we are going to get another Phase 1 report. And in trying to learn about all of this, I learned something of the concept of innocent landowner. And I would like to ask Mr. Ray to explain that to us for myself and everyone else's benefit.
Sure.
Thank you.
So under federal law, it's CERCLA, the Comprehensive Environment Response. What is the L? No.
I don't know.
Comprehensive Environment Response Compensation Liability Act is what it is. It provides certain liability protection for those that acquire land that may have had previous contamination to it under certain conditions. As long as the new owner does due diligence and goes through all appropriate inquiries is what it's defined as, to determine whether or not there was any prior contamination. And that's done through a Phase 1 generally. And as long as the Phase 1 is conducted under those standards, a previous Phase 1 wouldn't apply. That was done by another potential developer or owner would not apply to a new one. So the city is getting its own Phase 1, and it's only it expires, I believe, after a year, and the one that we have expires after a year. So that is in the process of being done, and we've been assured that it would be done before the end of the year. And if that would potentially provide the city with liability exemption, affirmative defenses, cleanup liability, if something were to come of it after the city obtained the property. I think is the best way to. It's called the innocent landowner defense. There's also the bona fide purchaser defense, which is kind of the same thing, so.
Okay. I wasn't even aware of the second one that you mentioned. So thank you so much for explaining that. That really helped it sink in for me what that means and what that can mean for us. And so with that in mind, I'm really hopeful that the report will come back and not indicate any issues for us, but should we find issues later on, I want us to be well prepared to have this defense and be able to get funding to pay for any cleanup that would be required. So I would like to add a caveat or an amendment, to the resolution that just says that the mayor can execute this pending. I don't really know how to say this. Not a clean report, because we know it's not going to be clean because there's asbestos and lead in the house, but a report that Mr. Ray feels will be adequate to establish innocent landowner. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to accomplish?
If I may, I suggested or thought about it and may suggest that after be it resolved by the board, mayor, and aldermen, and then add the language upon the completion of a phase 1 report, add that language. So it would read.
Upon the completion of a satisfactory phase 1 report.
As determined by the city attorney.
Yes, please.
How do you feel about that? You don't like that? What's some alternative wording?
That's fine.
So where would that go?
So after the first, be it resolved.
Okay.
That upon the completion of a satisfactory phase 1 report.
According to the city attorney.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Then it can go on to read, the city hereby accepts the donated conveyance, and then the other change would be in the second, be it resolved, after that.
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry.
You good?
Yeah, we don't have a second yet.
We don't have it. Okay, so go ahead and, if you could write that down, we're gonna do the second part of that, and then I bet you Alderman Collins is gonna make that into a motion. Go ahead, you wanna go to the second part of it?
Yeah, the second one, after the second, be it resolved.
Okay.
After the first, just have that same language in there again.
Oh, really? Okay.
That the mayor is authorized to execute a deed.
Upon completion of a satisfactory phase 1 report according to the city attorney.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna add that wording in there twice. Alderman Collins, you look like you're.
I would like to make that motion what he said.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. You're fine. So we have a motion there. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Alderman Garza. So at this point, we need to speak specific to this motion. I will do my best to come back to y'all in the order that you had pressed your buttons before. Alderman Collins, anything on this amendment? Anything else on this amendment? No. Okay. Do we need any explanation of what the amendment is? Okay. Alderman Waters. So Alderman Waters, if you go to page 483. Okay, you see there's the first paragraph that says, now therefore be it resolved. There's 2 paragraphs that say that. It would now read, and I'm going to tap you on the shoulder in just a second, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Hendersonville, Tennessee, that
upon the completion of a satisfactory phase 1 report according to the city attorney.
the city hereby accepts donated conveyance of real property. Then, on the next paragraph, it would read, be it further resolved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Hendersonville, Tennessee, that
upon completion of a satisfactory phase 1 report according to the city attorney.
So we're adding that language for both those paragraphs. Okay. Any other clarification on that? Okay. Alderman Sassy, probably on this amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Bergdorf on the amendment? Okay. Okay, Alderman Skidmore on this amendment? Okay. Okay, Alderman Peterson on this amendment? On the main amendment. Okay, so Alderman Sassy, go ahead.
I just want to get clarification on this. Will the Phase 1 report be received prior to the expected conveyance in December?
Yes, we were assured that it would be completed before the end of December, and that's why I suggested putting that language in there, because it is important to have that report before it's conveyed.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. Jason, you ready for us? Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Alderman Peterson, go ahead.
I do have a comment on this amendment.
Okay.
And if I may ask, how much is a Phase 1 and who's paying for it?
I know that we have to pay for it in order for it to apply to us. I don't know how much it is.
Yeah, we'll let Jesse.
Yeah. So if you have any complaints, go there.
It's $2,250, and it's coming out of the executive budget.
It is? Sorry.
Surprise, Merry Christmas.
So the developer wouldn't pay this fee?
You want to explain that?
The developer had a Phase 1, but the Phase 1 would not apply to us, because the Phase 1 has to be done for the purposes of the owner, and for the purposes of the person that's wanting to hopefully afford themselves of these liability protections. So it has to be done specifically for that entity or for that purpose. If that answers your question.
And this Phase 1 only includes the house or the grounds?
No, the grounds and the house.
Okay, so the entire 14 acres?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Good question.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Bergdorf, Alderman Skidmore on this, or you want me to come back to you?
On the main motion.
Gotcha.
So, yeah,
Okay. Jason, ready for us? Okay. Does anybody need the motion clarified? Okay. All those in favor of this this motion to amend, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. Okay. Oh, Jason, you went too fast. Okay, so we're gonna have to vote again. Okay, all those in favor, press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. Let's see how it comes out this time. Okay, so we have an abstention from Alderman Skidmore. The rest of us vote in favor, so that passes. Now we're back on the main motion. Alderman Collins, I'm going to go back to you because we sort of interrupted you to deal with this. Did you have anything? Appreciate that. Okay. Jason, I think we're good. Appreciate that. So Alderman Bergdorf, back on the main motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the work and the efforts by Alderman Collins down there wanting to know what's on the property. I appreciate that. And I also want to remind and thank the members of the board for the unanimous vote to consider donating the property to a charity last time this came up. We've got the paperwork started, and we're in process for a 501c3. We should get that next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bergdorf. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to sponsor this resolution.
Without objection, we're going to add Alderman Peterson's name on this. Anything else, Alderman Peterson?
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Let's go to Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you. Just want to alert to the board, I'll be abstaining on this vote this time.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for our city attorney, and I mentioned it to him today so he would be prepared. Do you have a copy of the deed restrictions?
Yes.
For everyone?
Yes. Sorry, I thought that was on everyone's desk.
Yeah, if you could pass those out, I think it would.
Here, you speak, I'll pass them out. Give them all to me.
Let's go. Let me have one.
Thank you, Mr. Ray and the mayor for passing those out. I assume that the area in yellow highlighted is the area that specifics, restrictions on the deed. How do these, first of all, overall question, how do these restrictions apply to the city?
They would just apply to the city as we sit here today. How that would be interpreted for the uses that it says that are allowed or restricted.
So it looks like to me the intent of the restrictions in Exhibit B, as you've highlighted, the intent is for commercial purposes.
And industrial, yes.
And industrial, commercial and industrial. Do you think that limits us in the use of this property?
As it sits here today, it would, I believe, to some extent, to the extent that this is interpreted. But I would also add that assuming a satisfactory Phase 1 report comes in, and that it would be found that those restrictions are no longer relevant, then there is a process that perhaps the city could go through to try to lift those restrictions. And I'm not sure I fully understood that the last time we talked, but it could be, first it would be recommended to appeal to the original owner, who was GE back in the 70s, I think it was. And I don't know who would be around I mean, I was born in the 70s, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that who would be the contact person to find that would be tough, I would imagine. Then the second process would be perhaps a petition to a court to prove that those restrictions are no longer necessary.
So it's your assumption that these restrictions were put on because of possible contamination of the land?
I've investigated this property previously for a client, and I don't know if it's something under the land or something that they were concerned about being put into the air. I don't know where the source is of the restrictions or any possible contamination, if there is any at all. So I can't answer that right now.
So when this land was zoned for industrial use for GE, was the city even in existence at that time?
I believe it was.
It was?
I think the city was, but I don't think it was inside the city. I think that property is actually outside the city.
It wasn't inside the city, so it wouldn't have gone through the zoning process of the city at that time?
If we're inside the city, it would have gone through the zoning process of the city, but I believe it's outside, so it would have gone through the zoning process of the county.
At the county? Okay, so we don't know if that was a stipulation by the county planning department that be put in as a precaution or not.
That's a scenario that could be possible, yeah. Yes.
So as it reads, as it stands, can we use that land for parks or playgrounds?
That is a no.
That's a restricted use, correct?
That is correct.
So in order to change that, we would have to go to court? There's a legal process of unencumbering the restrictions?
Yes, if we could not locate somebody from GE with the authority to do that, then a next step, if we could prove that we're entitled to have the restrictions removed, we could petition a court for that.
And would that be Chancery Court?
It would be.
Chancery Court?
Yes, sir.
Well, it may be interesting that our chancellor may have been
That's true.
the city attorney at the time.
That's
or
true.
the city manager,
yeah.
city manager at the time.
Yeah, he may know more about this than any of us.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to clarify because there has been some stuff put in on some social media that we were going to put a bubble here, and there were even some pictures put on. I don't know where those pictures came from, but I wanted it to be clear as it stands now. It's my legal opinion, and I'm not an attorney, but just reading the plain language of it, that we wouldn't be allowed to put parks or playgrounds, on that land without an additional clarification or a change of the courts. So I just wanted to make that point for the record, that it appears to me that these restrictions may prohibit some of the uses for that. Now, I don't think it would prohibit the use of a police station or, or even if the city wanted to add, facilities, but, okay, that's all I had. I just wanted to make that clear for the record. Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Lance, thank you. Alderman Collins.
I need clarification, based upon Alderman Roberson's comments, because I thought that not with this resolution, but with the ordinance that we had a couple weeks ago, that we did add language that said indoor recreational was a permitted use, and we specified that, so a bubble would be acceptable.
So I'm going to ask
Is that what we did?
I'm going to ask our planning director to take that one.
Yeah, I believe, Mayor, that was a part of the approval that the applicant, when they made that statement that an indoor recreational facility could be allowed, which would be a little bit different than parks or just open ground type of recreational facilities. But I think with that, to be really specific about it, that would be something, and Lance could maybe address it, but that would be something that would have to be kind of looked into deeper if we were ever faced with that, to see if an indoor recreational facility, even though the applicant stated that kind of pushes it in that direction, the ultimate clarification on that has not been determined.
Okay. And Keith, if you could hold on one second.
Yeah.
Lance, as the property owner, this would have to come back to us before anything is built there. Is that correct?
Yeah, under any scenario, if anything goes on that property, if the city owns it, it'd have to come back before this board for approval. If the city were to install something, obviously, if the city leased it to somebody that had plans to do that, this board would have to approve it. Or if somebody was going to purchase the property for some purpose like that, this board would have to approve it. So before anything went on it, I don't see any scenario, unless I'm missing something that people could help me with, that this board would not, that this board would have to have approval of.
Alderman Collins, back to you.
And one of the ways that approval would come from us could potentially be as a line item in the budget. If we were to decide to build a structure of our own, it could just be a part of our budget. It's not like we would vote on a site plan. Is that accurate? I mean, how, it comes to us for approval, how? In what form? What information will we be given? What does the vote look like on that? Because honestly, sometimes I am confused about why some things from planning come to us and others don't to this day. So I want to make sure that I really understand how
I can ask a question.
anything on this would, I know it could come in a few different ways.
Right.
What are they?
So that would be one way, is if the city decided to build something there, it would be, and spend money there, it would have to come through the board. And likely it would be something big enough that would probably have its own line item. It probably wouldn't be within, within a line item that includes several things. I'll let Lance go now and maybe Keith. It's a good question because there probably are multiple ways for that to happen.
Keith, that's zoned industrial right now?
Or no, it's I think it's general commercial plan development. I believe that's correct. Yeah.
So it would go through the planning commission? If something was proposed to be built there, it would go through the planning?
It'd have to go to the planning commission. There
But
just
as
would
the
be a site
applicant,
plan.
we would have to sign off on that, wouldn't we?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. And it could be if the city was participating or building a facility or improvements on that property, then there would be budget-related things that BOMA would have to prove. I would think if the city was entering into some kind of agreement, just like the agreement maybe to transfer a portion of the property to historical group, then that would have to have some sort of blessing by BOMA as well, and then that would be an opportunity to look at that as well. And then those would be the main things that would happen. But I don't think really anything of any substance could really be done over there without BOMA actually approving it
Voting.
as the property owner, yeah.
I mean, I think I could probably approve somebody to mow it or to bale
Sure.
hay, but that's probably it.
But a use, an actual use, we would have an opportunity to vote in some way. I'm just thinking of all the ways that I can trip up and not notice what's happening with it. Because it is confusing, and people ask me questions all the time. What's going here? What's going there? I don't know. A lot of times that's because it's not an issue that comes to
Yeah.
us. But I'm just thinking of all the different ways that it can come, and I mess up and not realize what's happening.
Okay. Okay, and you also always have the opportunity to send me an email or give me a call.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. Alderman Robertson, I still have your mic lit up. Is
No, I'm finished.
mistake on my part? Okay. Okay, so we're back on the main motion. Did we have an amendment on this? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we had an amendment that was adding a phrase
Yes.
twice.
Right.
And now we're back on the main motion, and nobody has their light on wishing to speak. Okay. So this is Resolution 2023-46. Jason, you ready for us? All those in favor, please press your green button. Those opposed, press the red one. As Alderman Skidmore mentioned, he abstained, and the rest of us voted in favor of it. Thank you. And now we'll move on to not item 5, because we've already dealt with that. That was Grace Place. We moved that up on the agenda. And now we're on to item 6. This is Resolution 2023-50. This is resolution establishing fees to be collected by the Planning Department in the administration of the city's zoning ordinance. Alderman Martin, as our representative of the Planning Commission, do you wish to make a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay. So Alderman Martin makes the motion. We have a second? We have a second from Alderman Sassy. Alderman Martin, sorry for surprising you there. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering if we could speak with Keith Free
He happens to be nearby, so I think that'd
from
work out
the
well.
Planning Department. Hello, Mr. Free.
Hello, Alderman.
I appreciate the work y'all put into establishing fees. I just want to clarify, will these fees, additional fees and increase in fees prohibit anyone from affording to do business in Hendersonville?
No, I don't believe so. As you can see in the study, that we're recapturing 95% of the actual conservative cost to take care of these applications that are associated with businesses and associated with development. But these are, as you can see, in comparison to peer cities, we're certainly going to be on the majority of these permitted items. We're going to be at the top of what we're paying, but we're doing it a little bit different. A lot of the other cities, they do it by looking at what other cities are doing, and then that's how they change their fee schedule. We're doing it totally different. We're looking at based on what our actual costs are, and then establishing that. I think it can be challenging on some of the things with as you can see, the major increases for use and occupancy permits. That's a pretty good jump, makes up a pretty good chunk of that increase in the funding or the revenue that comes in. But those are, I don't see any of those fees being something that our typical business would walk away from.
Okay.
But it's certainly, in some cases, when you had a very small business, it could be challenging. One thing I think this does afford us the opportunity, as we're gearing more into economic development, with this fee schedule, could give us the opportunity in the future to identify certain types of businesses that we might want to incentivize, and then therefore look at giving reduction. We're not doing that right now, but that could be something that could happen in the future.
Okay.
Alderman
That's all I needed.
Alderman
Thank
Peterson,
you.
thank you. Alderman Bergdorf.
Yes, thank you very much, appreciate it. What I'd like to note particularly is this will apply in, okay, there it is, right on front, January 1st. I was going to ask if it was fiscal year or annual, so it's annual. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, we'll make that that would be effective January the 1st. It's kind of a good point to start. And then additionally, this includes an annual increase based on whatever BOMA has for the cost of living for employees. We'll just adjust that. And so each year, if there is a cost of living increase, then that will be adjusted through all these permits.
So a follow-up question regarding this. Was this proposed in budget? I don't remember.
No, this
is new money?
Yeah. So
Okay,
this
all right.
is, yeah, this would be something based on what we did in 2022. If these fees were in effect, in some areas we're a little down, others were about where we were, but it's roughly about $429,000 increase in the revenue that would be generated. So it could have budget implications for when you're budgeting revenue in the next mid-year or next year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Alderman Bergdorf, thank you. Alderman Skidmore.
Just a quick comment. I'm glad you're back.
Oh, thank you.
We missed you.
Oh, thank you.
So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Skidmore. Just a comment, I appreciate the staff doing this. It'd be very easy for them and very much expected for them to continue doing work as they did it yesterday. However, our staff constantly looks for ways that they can cut expenses as well as generate revenue. Now, obviously, some departments don't have that opportunity, but codes have done an exceptional job of staying on top of what the opportunities are for them with their fees, and planning has come along as well, and we appreciate that with some changes that allow them to do that. And they were on that very quickly once they were allowed to do that. So I appreciate that very, very much, to the tune of $400-something thousand. That's tremendous. So, any other discussion on this item? All those in favor of Resolution 2023-50, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on to other agenda items. The first item is a vote on the appointment of Timothy Mannion to the Beer Board. I need a motion. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Peterson, I believe that was. All those in favor of Timothy Mannion to serve on the Beer Board, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a discussion on the interlocal agreements that we have presented to the volunteer fire departments, number 1 volunteer fire department and Shackle Island volunteer fire department. So why don't we have Chief Bush and Jesse come in and update us a little bit on that. Do you want to talk? Okay. I'll let you all decide how to start.
I'll start because my part is short. I have not received a signed agreement from either department, so I have no update other than that.
I think that sums it up. As Mr. Eckenroth said, we've not heard anything back from either agency.
So in the past week, now we did hear from number 1 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago?
It's
Okay.
probably been 10 days or so, yes, sir.
Okay.
It's just a kind of a verbal conversation that we had with them.
Yep.
But we've not seen anything back signed that says they're willing to move forward with that. The only question I have is the one that I sent
Yeah.
via email. Do you want to make it effective November 30th at midnight or December the 1st when we hit the door, December the 1st?
What did we say a couple weeks ago?
I don't think we designated a time, but I may be wrong on that.
I don't remember a specific to that.
So I'd feel more comfortable at 11:59, November 30th. And so then when we get to midnight, December 1st, that's the threshold.
Okay. That's all I need to know to notify the ECC that
Okay.
if there's no agreement that effective 11:59 on November 30th, we'll not respond outside the city.
Except for the cases where it's mutual aid and state law
Correct.
covers us. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Boy, nobody wanted to talk, and now I got a bunch. Okay, Alderman Robertson.
And I said all I need to say last time regarding on principle that I want to make sure that these agreements, if they are signed by the volunteer fire departments, that there is some level of mutuality. The chief told us last meeting that for sure there is an element of mutuality between number 1 because they have helped us as many times as we've helped them. So I see that that's fair. I see that that's fair to the taxpayers and fair to all involved. I don't believe that mutuality factor applies to Shackle Island just based upon the number, 129 to 5. So I can support the interlocal agreement, Mayor, for number 1, but even as it reads for principal purposes, I could not support it for New Shackle because I don't believe that it's mutually beneficial. Now, with that said, I also want to know Plan B. If we don't get an agreement with either of these, are we going to begin reaching out to the Board of Education and to specific churches that, city residents may be involved in to offer them private agreements? And private agreements are allowed. Is that right, Mr. Ray?
Under state law, that is my understanding, yes.
Yeah. And we don't have to get county commission approval for that, or what's the notice requirement?
I believe we do have to have county commission approval for that. I believe, the way I understand the statute.
Okay, it's approval or just notice?
The way it reads, which is pretty vague, but the way it reads, it would appear that they would have to agree to it.
Okay, so Mayor, what's the plan?
So let me rephrase your question a little bit so I can get some gray area out of my mind. So if we were to sign an agreement with, let's say, Long Hollow Baptist Church, outside the city limits of Hendersonville, would we have to get the county commission to approve that agreement with that church?
That's the way I understand the statute.
Okay.
It's a different statute that applies to private agreements.
Okay. So Plan B right now is, with the help of Chief Bush and his staff, as well as Jesse, we've looked at the buildings and the organizations that we have concerns for, specifically those organizations that have a lot of Hendersonville city residents that are in those buildings. We're talking about the schools and we're talking about the churches. So I've reached out to Director of Schools, Dr. Langford, and he plans to speak to his board, and he's talked to his attorney about signing an agreement with us. I don't feel like I can, so we're offering him the same agreement that we've offered to the volunteer fire halls, but it's going to be specific to their buildings. I don't feel like I can sign that until I come back here, okay? Keep in mind, though, that if there is a mutual aid situation where we're covered by state law, we're going out there anyway.
Sure.
Here's the gray area, is we have a couple small churches out there that if nobody's in the building and there's a fire, is that really, I mean, it's such a gray area to me, is that really covered under the state mutual aid law? That's why I want an agreement with the, how many churches in number 1? What did we decide? Like 2, okay. And was it 4 churches? Okay. And then 3 schools in the Shackle Island zone. So that's why I want those agreements with them. Every one of those churches, and especially those schools, have Hendersonville residents that are paying property taxes, and I feel like deserve us coming out there. But at the same time, I want to be covered with that agreement. I would hate for our guys to go out and respond, and then later on we find out that we weren't covered in that agreement. If we have it in hand, we'll make sure we're covered. Now, having said that, there could be a gap of a couple days or a couple weeks in this situation. But honestly, I don't think that's our fault, is we have been discussing this for 2.5 months, and we have certainly given adequate opportunity for these volunteers to come forward and to work with us or suggest changes. Alderman Robertson, back to you, or
yeah.
Go ahead.
So, Chief Bush, in looking at Exhibit A, are any of those under mutual aid? And that's kind of a misnomer, I think, because are any of those 5 items covered under the state mutual aid
So I don't
requirements?
I don't have it in front of me, and I'm getting older, so under A, no, sir. That is not covered under the state TCA.
Okay.
Those are what they consider regular occurrence calls.
Yes.
And it's not covered by the TCA.
I agree with you. I think that is a correct interpretation. So if we have a swift water rescue in one of these volunteer fire stations, and we don't have an agreement, and the county mayor or our mayor doesn't declare an emergency, our insurance will not provide coverage for our swift water rescue team to provide aid. Is that correct?
If they are directed to go either through the mayor, Mr. Eckenroth, or myself, they would be covered with workers' comp, but liability, no. That's the way I understand that.
So, in the entrapment in a vehicle, in a drowning, in a swift water rescue, in a hazardous material, all of those could possibly involve city residents, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's a possibility.
Yes, sir. If it was at a school,
Yep.
it was on a part of the roadway leading to one of those places that folks are traveling to and from school or church. Obviously, there's areas of water that would be concerning. I mean, 2010 was kind of a 100-year flood.
Yeah.
But we've been out in the Shackle Island area when there was some heavy rains, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, standing by at Long Hollow Church because they requested for our swift water team to be out there.
So if we don't get if we don't get an interlocal agreement, we will not be able to respond to those.
That is correct.
Okay.
Oh, well, let me back up. If you folks say no, if we don't have an interlocal agreement, then the liability falls on the city to go to any of those calls that are shown on that display.
Yeah, I would assume that we would not, we would not go, which brings me to a point.
I can't direct the staff to go in that situation.
No, and I think you're correct, if insurance has told us they won't cover us. So, Mr. Lance, I'm sorry for drawing this out so much, but it's important. Is it possible that this city could enter into an agreement with the county commission to respond to entrapment in vehicles if requested, if called, drowning, swift water rescues, and hazardous material? Would the county be able to sign an interlocal agreement with the city that would cover our insurance risk?
Yeah, if they believe you could contract for anything, if they, if that contract provided for that and they agreed to it, I
You
believe.
see where I'm going, Mayor?
Are you about to ask the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that answer. I doubt that will ever happen, considering the reception that we received a year and a half ago from the county.
I don't disagree with you. But it puts the responsibility then on the county. If the city has offered in these, not the fire, but just in the entrapment, drowning, swift water, and hazardous, if the county says no, then our hands are tied. So I'm wondering if we have to send something to the county commission for the churches and the schools, if we should also have some kind of agreement that the county commission would deliberate and decide to give us authority to handle those 4 areas.
So that might be an amendment to Plan B.
Yeah.
Make sense?
So I would like some discussion on that if I'm way off base.
Okay.
And again, the only reason I think that we should respond is because it's possible that a city resident is involved in these situations. And there's not many of them, are there, Chief? There's not many of those situations.
Not typically, no, sir. I mean, again, you saw the, 3 years, 4 years that we had up on the previous map of the 120-something calls that we've covered in that area.
Yeah. You know, if I'm involved in an accident and I'm entrapped in my vehicle, I want your department there to try to help me get out, you know.
I mean, we've gone out where they've had, when we had a storm come through, the gentleman was fractured his pelvis in a tree and was trapped, and they couldn't get him because they didn't have an aerial device to reach him. And so they called for us to come out and assist with that. They had a tree fall on an individual. They called us because they didn't have the materials to get the tree off the individual.
So, Mayor, do you need a motion? Do you need a motion to authorize discussions with the county
I don't,
on that?
I think that's fine, but I just told Lance, I said, I think that's something we need to do. And so, first off, if the county school board wants to sign an agreement with us, we're gonna have to go to the county anyway. If the churches want to sign an agreement, we're gonna have to go to the county anyway. So what I'm prepared to do is just go ahead and let the county know that we might be asking them for approval for those specific buildings, but we're also gonna ask them for approval for the whole zone.
Yeah.
And I'll let them know that.
And the last thing, if we move forward with Plan B, what do you think about asking the churches to have a rider on their insurance policy that in case of a fire, instead of $500 reimbursement to the city, it would be $1,000?
You asking that to me?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to hold off a year to do that.
Okay.
And specifically because when I talked to Dr. Langford, I sent him the agreement that we had sent to the volunteer fire departments and said, this is what we would want to do with you, which specifically says no compensation is involved. And so I'd like to stay with no compensation, at least for the next year.
Okay. That's all, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alderman Robertson. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I always let my cohort take care of the legal business, and I just handle the insurance part, okay? That's where we work in court. Scott, if you don't mind, I'm confused, and I think I shared this with you before. On page 7, discussion included the potential of the city fire department billing individual insurance company if responses were made outside the city. Explain that to me. I mean, I've been in this business 30 years.
So basically, I think the intent of that language would be if we went to Sandy Valley Road, which is out of the city limits. It's in the county. We responded there for a house fire. If we went there and spent any amount of time, we would bill, or the potential would be to bill that homeowner's insurance for reimbursement. I sent you all some information of the research that we had done per y'all's request at the last meeting. And basically, I think most insurance companies has a $500 rider for that we could submit for that. If the individual homeowner has a rider on their personal policy, it could double up to $1,000. And I think I stated nationwide is actually $1,000. And if the individual has nationwide and they had a rider, it would go to $2,000. But that would only apply to billing folks outside of the city, not folks in the city. The city residents pay tax bases that supplies the services that they receive. We would not be billing homeowners in the city limits for anything.
Well, you don't do that now.
No, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Their tax base covers what we spend in our budget. Yes, sir. Did that help you?
No, I'm not through.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Yes, sir.
I'm old. Does the homeowner have to sign some type of agreement for you to apply to his insurance company for this money?
The way it was explained to me through the insurance folks that we talked to, the homeowner requests that the insurance provider that they have, we can bill that insurance company and they send us the check from their insurance provider, not the individual homeowners, the insurance company that they've been paying policy for X amount of years or whatever would send us the check for that. Because it's in small print in almost every policy.
So the owner of the property wouldn't have to sign a thing for their homeowners?
The way I understand it, no, sir.
And you're going to bill the insurance company XYZ for service rendered?
If that's the decision that you folks make, yes, sir, we would do that.
Does that person have to have a binder for that service, or just a regular homeowner's policy?
Just a homeowner's policy, just a regular policy has that in the small print.
Out in the city?
Well, city or outside the city.
Has what?
has that in their policy. There's the allowable limit is within that policy in the small print.
Can you read the small print to me?
I don't have my particular policy with me.
No, I'm serious.
I know.
We could get that to you the next day. We could get that to you the next day.
No, wait a minute. I don't think you can do this now. I'll be honest with you. I've talked to 2 agents this past week about this, and they want to know where I got that information.
Well, I'd have to get you all the names and numbers and the folks that we called and spoke with after our last meeting that provided us with that information, and I'd be glad to do that.
You're gonna have to.
Okay.
You say it's in my policy too?
The way it was explained to us was every insurance policy has that ability for them to be billed for our services if we're called to that residence. Yes, sir.
So Alderman Waters, could I interrupt real quick?
Pardon?
Could I interrupt real quick?
No.
Okay.
So I'm reading on page 113, staff report, and I guess this might have been by attorney or Jesse, I don't know which. An interlocal agreement will bolster services for residents in the unincorporated county, but can have a detrimental impact to city residents if staff are responding to the unincorporated section of the county.
Yes, sir.
We need to take care of our people in our city.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not for this, I'll be honest with you, but I'm concerned about what you're telling me about the policy, and I hope you can find something to send me. And I'll look through my policy again when I get home tonight, if the prejudice is still not known. But I looked through my policy, and I don't know where you're seeing that.
I'm not actually seeing it. I've not looked at mine. I'm saying this is the conversations we had with those insurance providers that we contacted on our last meeting, from our last meeting to now.
Will you have one of your contact agents call me and tell me where it is in a...
I will send you that information. I'll send it to the full board, whoever we contacted, and you guys can reach out to them at your own free will.
Because I can't vote for this. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Waters, very appropriate questions. I want to explain that Chief Bush wasn't prepared with that information because compensation is not part of this agreement. However, in some point in the near future, we're going to have this discussion. So I appreciate you bringing up those, and I appreciate Chief Bush getting you that information the next day or so. So thank you. Alderman Bergdorf.
Thank you. I appreciate. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
You're good.
All right. Just a couple of things. We've been discussing the interlocal agreements a lot, and I appreciate Chief Bush's work on this. And yes, I understand that the insurance will, homeowners insurance will cover the cost for a fire. At least that's what I've been told as well. Number one, I did want to ask, we've talked a lot about insurance. Volunteer fire departments have insurance, do they not? Anybody? Anyone?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
So is it much like a individual covered under standard policy? If someone's driving the car, then the person's vehicle is insured from other issues and costs. Have we discussed the possibility of the city of Hendersonville staff being covered under the volunteer fire department insurance? I haven't heard anything about that. Is that a possibility?
I have not. I have not done that research. I'm not saying that I can't. Volunteer Fire Insurance Services,
Yes.
VFIS, Mr. Steve Frost,
Okay.
is who represents most of the volunteer agencies in the Sumner County area.
Well, can somebody find out about
Sure.
that?
I don't mind doing that.
I
mean,
can't.
We can,
So-
we can have somebody from my staff or myself contact
Because
Mr.
that may
Frost.
help solve a lot of our problems that we're dealing here. Because as you know, as Mr. Waters knows, insurance is an unusual game, and cumbersome, and meant to be. So we need to explore all options before we leave our folks on service without service at all. I would appeal to board to do that.
So let me make sure that we're correct on this and perk your ears up too, for memory's sake. is you want me to reach out to them and see if there's a rider that they will provide to
Yes.
our staff
Yes.
for responding out of the city to county
Yes,
jurisdiction.
because this may all be
Okay,
mute, if it is.
okay,
Okay?
I'll work on it.
Is that fair?
Alderman Bergdorf, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question. It concerns me they hadn't responded to us. And who are the chiefs of number one? And does Shackle Island, do they even have a chief yet?
Yes, sir.
They do?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who they are?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you mind saying?
No, I mean, Ron Wills is the Shackle Island Fire Chief.
All right.
He was the assistant chief for years underneath Chief Bowers. And then Chris Edgerton is the chief of the number one volunteer fire department.
Okay,
And he's been out there several years as well.
Okay. That guy I know, but I mean, I'm not gonna call them if they choose not to respond to us, you know, it's their loss, not ours. So anyway, thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering. I didn't know about the new chief out there.
Yes, sir.
Because I know the one that's been there a while.
Chief Bowers.
Yes, Chief Bowers had retired.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Goodwin.
I have a question. If the county should sign an agreement, would that give our firefighters liability coverage?
If they should sign
Since
with
it's-
the volunteer fire
No,
department?
if the volunteer fire departments do not sign the interlocal agreement and you go to the county and they have an agreement with us, will that work with our liability insurance?
We would have to confirm that with them, but it's a possibility.
And the second part to my question, relating to Mr. Bergdorf's suggestion, I have a real problem if the volunteer fire department says their insurance is gonna cover our guys. We can't get them to respond to an interlocal agreement. How do we know those premiums are being paid? I think that's a huge risk to our firefighters to go on what they said. I'm not comfortable with that at all.
Alderman Goodwin, thank you. Alderman Collins.
Alderman Roberson asked for some discussion about whether or not we should take an agreement to the county, just like the one that we've taken to the fire departments. So I just wanted to say, my 2 cents is no. My opinion is that we spend some time during December, which could go into January, reach an agreement with the churches that are listed on it's Appendix A for each of the 2 different fire departments. And for the schools involved with Shackle Island, reach in a private agreement, take that to the county commission, allow them to vote on it, and move forward. And the reason that I wouldn't support sending the full agreement to the county is because the relationship is not mutual. So we've given them an opportunity to sign on with us. They don't want to. I would not expect for them to start answering more calls after this conversation has occurred. And this is just more time and more resources outside the city, and limiting that is where I am right now. And it has taken me 3 years to come to that conclusion, to kind of harden my heart around it. But I think that we need to limit the resources that we're sending outside, and I don't expect for the number of calls that get sent to us to change. So if they pass on the agreement, I don't think we should ask the county commission to agree. We should just look at the churches and the schools at that point. Just my opinion.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Alderman Robertson.
I just want to echo, with all due respect, Alderman Bergdorf, I want to echo my concurrence with Alderman Goodwin's comments. If our firefighters respond into the county, the unincorporated areas, I want us to be in charge of the insurance issues and not have to depend on a volunteer fire department insurance. It just gets into, I think it complicates, it makes it into a mess if we try to do that. I understand the request, but I couldn't support changing it to allowing them to cover our firefighters. I want us to cover our firefighters. So I don't know, Mayor, if we need to have a vote on this request for the chief to because these agreements have pretty much been ironed out to this point. So I don't want to muck it up. Do we need to have a vote on whether the chief pursue this line of questioning with the volunteer fire departments, or do we just, I'm concerned about that direction.
So I was prepared to answer your question before you even answered it, because I was going to ask you, don't muck it up. In that when we met with the chiefs of volunteer fire departments, we provided them an agreement that we were satisfied with. A couple days later, we went back with 3 minor changes. So we've already moved the goalpost on them, just a small bit. We've already moved the goalpost on them once. I'd like to leave that there, that what we've offered to them, for a little while longer, at least until November 30th, without moving the goalpost again. So that's my way of saying that I think we just sort of have to sit tight for a little while longer. And I would hope that nobody would make a motion to rescind, which is the next item on the agenda. And if, regardless of what happens, I'm going to include item 8 and 9 on the next agenda. We might be tired of dealing with this, but I feel like I need your input on this, and I need your decision. Several times I've asked Lance, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Many decisions that would come up possibly in the next month, I can't make. They have to be made by the full board. There are a couple that I could make. So we need to keep this on the agenda for the next meeting. Having said that, like I said, I hope that nobody will make a motion to rescind. I feel like that'd be opening up the opportunity to move the goalpost again. Having said that, I absolutely will let the county know that if we don't get agreement with the volunteer fire departments, we will offer the county those agreements. I would then have to come back to the board for y'all to approve those. Alderman Robertson, go ahead.
And since I raised the line of questioning, it would be all but structural fires. It would just be the entrapment, drowning, swift water, and hazardous materials that I would be willing to offer the county.
Gotcha.
In these areas. I understand what Alderman Collins was talking about, maybe that's Plan C. We try to get the churches and schools in and get the county to agree to that, and then we see how that goes before we go forward. But all right, thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. So I'm going to declare that the discussion of the interlocal agreement is complete. We have item 9 on the agenda. If somebody would like to make a motion, they certainly have that opportunity and the right to do that. Or we can move on to brief committee reports. Chairman Bergdorf, Finance Committee.
Can I ask one point?
Go ahead, Chief.
Please, I'm sorry.
Okay.
For point of clarification, am I to not move the goalpost, leave it where it is?
Leave it where it is.
So don't reach out to volunteer fire insurance folks and ask those questions yet?
I think that's fine, but we're not
Okay.
changing the agreement is what I meant by goalpost.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate
Okay.
that.
Appreciate
Very
it.
good.
I think it's important for us to go ahead and have as much information as we need.
And he's also going to provide the information to Alderman Waters that we asked for. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Alderman Bergdorf, Chairman
Okay.
Bergdorf.
Okay, thank you. We had a brief Finance Committee meeting today, and it went well. We discussed several issues. Let me get to my notes here. I wasn't quite prepared. I apologize. One of the resolutions we did discuss was the resolution, first reading for a resolution to ask the General Assembly to the authority to adopt a new property tax freeze program from increase real property taxes for residential homeowners. This sounds like a great opportunity for our current homeowners and to freeze property taxes so that they can live at peace in a great neighborhood. It's sponsored by, where did he go? Alderman Sassy, who just abandoned us right now, but that's okay.
There he goes.
But it was a great chance to do this, and it passed unanimously. Then we moved on to other discussions. Sales tax analysis report. Local sales tax was down a little bit, but we're looking forward for good things with Costco and Christmas coming up. So everybody spend well this upcoming holiday season. Investment earnings report was positive, and the stormwater report was positive. So, and that was about it. Thank you.
Chairman Bergdorf, thank you so much.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, who's got a question?
Alderman
Alderman Skidmore? Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you. When Alderman Sassy gets back to him, I appreciate what he has done for that. About the free. Also, I had a phone call. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I had a phone call this past week. I would also like to look into about the property tax issue, and you can get hold of me privately, or not with the Board of Aldermen, or not. I'm not, and I don't know the correct thing, but it's not saying I don't want to waste their time, because they'll need to know about it too. But it will, just so you can get in touch with me about it. But about the property tax freeze for disabled veterans.
Yes.
Because there seems to be an issue that needs to be addressed one way or the other, whether we can do it or not, or what the policy or procedure is for the disabled vets, because it is an important issue. They fought for this country, to defend it and defend the things that what we're doing very well tonight for that cause. And so I'd like for that to be looked at for that. Disabled vets.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Skidmore, Public Works Committee. Thank you, Alderman Bergdorf. Oh, now you can.
Okay, thank you very much. We had our meeting tonight. Couple of items. I do want to thank the Public Works Department, and the committee does too, for the outstanding work of the street paving that has been going on throughout the city. I've had several phone calls, and I've had a few emails, not a lot of emails, but a lot of more phone calls. That's always better to get a hold of me that way anyway. So I want to tell them thank you for that, and I want to thank the board for also honoring the budget for the paving. I know it was not as much as we wanted, but you all gave as much as you could, and I really appreciate that. And I look forward to next year's paving, coming back here and letting you know what we've got. Also, tonight we met regarding Resolution 2023-51, accepting the dedication of the streets in Stone Ridge. It was passed unanimously. And then we wanted to go, we discussed tonight at length about the trash collection. And we've had, everything's going well right now. We've had a few bumps in the road, but dealing with trash, that's just what we normally, that's a normal standard of our operation in Public Works. But we're doing better this time. I do want to alert the board that on December 7th, the contract for the trash collection bid will be open. We have several bidders this time around, which I'm grateful for, because at first when we put the contract out, we were not expecting as many as we got, and we got more than what we got, more than we expected. So I'm really excited about that. So we will be coming back later on to talk a bit, specifically about the trash bid. So that's coming in the future. I want to let the folks in the Aldermen know about the Cage's Bend study that was put out. There were some people that came forward and said we need to reduce the speed limit from 40 to 35, and it came back that that is correct. So we're going to be putting out speed signs out on Cage's Bend Road that will reduce it 5 miles an hour to reduce. It will become 35 instead of the 40. So that's oncoming within the new year coming up. Also, I wanted to let the people know about Bonita Parkway, about a new roundabout, not the one that is there now. That, you know, if you all live out there, or even I know all of you have been out there, there's a house that sits in the middle of Bonita Parkway, and you got to go all the way around, venture all the way around, and come out on the other side. Well, we've done an assessment of that, and we're working now to see the process is to putting a new roundabout out there that will be a little more safe, I guess is the word.
Is that Hendersonville's first roundabout?
No, that is not our first roundabout. So, oh, you mean the one with the yes, it is actually. Oh, I get you now. It went over my head for a minute. It really did. Anyway, yes, that is Hendersonville's first roundabout where that house is there in there now. That was a good one. You got me on that. So anyway, that'll be upcoming. Oh, you're fine. That'll be upcoming, and I'll let you all know the process on that. The other thing I wanted to let you guys know, which I know that has been a concern of some of the folks that have emailed me and called me, and we spoke privately about it, as well as to some of the committee members of the board of the Public Works Committee, our Saunders Ferry Greenway update. Now, I know we've passed the completion date, but because there's a few little things that we've got to take care of first. Our Thanksgiving came, and they weren't finished, and so they don't work on Thanksgiving. So it'll be completed soon. We just got to get that done, and also we're looking at, and I don't want to go into real detail with this, but we're trying to get a lot information to come back to the board. We'll come back to the committee first and to the board about when you go down Saunders Ferry Road and you see where the bridge is. Excellent. And I know a lot of you cannot see the water because of the bridge. And so we're looking at now about changing some ideas there about how we can take all the lumber down and put some wire or anything that there's been several ideas that we looked at tonight where you can see the lake from Saunders Ferry Road. So I will come back with an update later for that. I do want to let the board know that we have canceled our meeting for December, which is the 26th. And so we've canceled that, but we've rescheduled it. We've rescheduled it to, which we will come out and let you know, but it'll be earlier in December because we need to, and it'll be a special called meeting because we have the trash contract to take apart and to look at and examine. So that will be in the first couple of weeks of December. So I want to let you guys know that we're going to do that at that point. Other than that, that's about all of our meeting this evening. Thank you.
Chairman Skidmore, thank you. You make it sound like y'all didn't do too much and y'all did a ton. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
we did, yes, we did.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So my report, which y'all allowed with the changes to the agenda, a couple things I want to mention. You've seen some decorations right in front of me here, some others in this room, some others out front. Those were put together by volunteers with beautiful Hendersonville. We appreciate that so much that they did that, and they continue to work on that. The citizen comments that came up tonight had come up in the past. First off, I want to say thank you for something. It is rarely worthwhile for the board to engage with somebody in citizen comments. Those 5 minutes belong to that person. And so y'all handle that very well. We have had times where somebody has come to speak and they have said things that are incorrect. And we've all just sort of swallowed that a little bit, and we address that later on when we have the opportunity. I don't ever want to get into a debate, and I certainly don't ever want to embarrass somebody who's at that podium. And so I appreciate the way that y'all handle that. And Alderman Waters, your suggestion in the past hour or so that I had to think about it, I think what we should do in that situation for the person who spoke tonight and has spoken in the past is have our general committee look into that. I'm also glad that we didn't discuss that because that's something that is going or has gone to our city court. We don't really want to weigh in on something that's going before our city judge. So when there is an outcome there, I think our general committee could look into possible changes since it does deal with codes and a little bit of planning too. But I think that that's probably the best way to handle that is go to the general committee and at least have a discussion about it. But I'll leave that up to the chairman, Chairman Peterson. And that's just my suggestion. If somebody else has something, that's an option as well. So appreciate the way you all have handled citizen comments, and we listen attentively, and we let people speak, and I think that's wonderful the way we handle that. Last night, the Resource Authority Board of Sumner County, we made a decision that I just need to update you on. It doesn't affect us. The Resource Authority Board is made up 2/7 City of Gallatin, 2/7 City of Hendersonville, 3/7 from Sumner County. We have ownership, and we get to share with the assets and liabilities of the Resource Authority. One of the liabilities for years has been that taking more and more trash means that there are longer lines going into the Resource Authority. The number one complaint I have had about the Resource Authority is about the lines that are come out there. Very rarely do the trucks that pick up our residential waste go to the Resource Authority. Sometimes they go on Wednesdays, but that's pretty much the only time. They go to AAA in Nashville typically because it's just a better price for us and it works better for Waste Pro to go down there. It's a benefit for us to go down there. Occasionally they do go to the Resource Authority and they have to wait in line. To address that, about 18 months ago, the Resource Authority Board, I am your representative on there, and Jim Young, our former finance director, is your other representative on there. We looked at expanding that. And last night we made a decision that we are going to hire a company that submitted the only bid for what we thought was going to be a $13 million expansion. The Resource Authority, when I say we, I mean the Resource Authority, not City of Hendersonville. We estimated that it would be $13 million. We went out for bids. We had 2 companies that were interested. Only one turned in a bid. We were talking earlier in a committee about recently, it seems like only one company turns in bids. That's what happened to the Resource Authority. Fortunately, it was only $3 million above the estimated cost. Honestly, that's the way we felt. Is we had anticipated $13 million, and it came in right about $16 million. And we all said, darn, but we also said, oh, that could have been much, much worse. Since we borrowed $13 million, we need to come up with an additional $3 million. Fortunately, we have about $7 million in the bank that the Resource Authority has saved up over some time. And in the course of the construction, we'll probably generate about an additional $2.83 million in profit, if you can look at it that way, as a government entity has a profit. So we chose the company last night that is Curtis Construction Company, which is out of Gallatin. We feel very confident in them. And they will start that project. I think they have 60 days to start that project. Again, doesn't affect the money coming in and out of the City of Hendersonville, doesn't affect our liability, but I feel like I should just let y'all know that since we are 2/7 of that. Let me think if I have anything else here. Oh, we also hired a new general manager of the Resource Authority. His name is Bill Brown, and he started on Monday, and we look forward to him being there. Larry Wright, who is our current general manager, emeritus, I guess, he's going to stick around for about another 6 weeks and help us to get our legs under us and help Bill Brown to get his legs under him. One other thing, I've said this last year and I will say it again, as you Christmas shop and you're looking for gifts, if you cannot find it in Hendersonville, it is a bad gift. So I'm going to turn it over to our CEO, Jesse.
Thank you, Mayor. A little bit of good news tonight, Jason, if you can pull up that slide. I want to talk about an award that our clean team received today. So that's Trace up there with our clean team, and the Sumner County Health Committee recognized the city of Hendersonville for their government award. So they were presented a really nice kind of glass plaque here. I'll pass around that you guys can look at.
And by the way, y'all, this is heavy, so be careful here. This is.
So it was just pretty neat for the guys to get recognized for their work. Another order of business, the police chief recruitment is now open. And in about a month and a half, our new website is going to launch. So a major goal of that new website is that information is more accessible and the website's more intuitive. So around mid-January, end of January, we can expect to see that website launch. And then something that the city has been working on for years internally is there's this project called InterGov where we can accept digital plans, we can do credit card payments, so turning our codes in our planning department from a paper and pen process to an electronic process. That launches tomorrow in go time. So we will be able to accept credit cards online and just kind of get with some newer technology. And we expect to see some pretty significant efficiency gains from going into an electronic workflow in those processes. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Jesse. Thank you. Alderman Garza, who has stepped up his game as far as representing Christmas in his clothing, would you like to make a would you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
So I have a motion and a second from Alderman Goodwin. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you all very much for your work tonight.